Young filly.
Young filly.
Young filly.
Young filly.
Young filly.
Amid several sex assault allegations. The rape-accused British DJ could be back home in the UK for Christmas under a proposed relaxation of his bail conditions. Young filly has been forced to stay in Perth for the past 12 months amid several sex assault allegations.
March 2025. After nearly 5 months of silence, young filly posts again. There's nothing attached to explain where he's been. No attempt to frame the upload as a return or a statement. The clip appears quietly, carrying the same casual tone he used before everything stopped. If you weren't already aware of what happened in late 2024, it would barely register as unusual. That familiarity is what makes people hesitate. Nothing surrounding his disappearance has shifted. The legal case that pushed him out of public view is still working its way through the Australian court system, unresolved. Yet the post arrives without context, as if the gap itself never required explanation. Within minutes, viewers begin retracing timelines, scrolling backward through his account, searching his name elsewhere, trying to understand how normal posting can resume, while the reason for the silence remains unsettled. Young filly doesn't respond. Another post follows. As the uploads continue, it becomes clear this isn't a brief reappearance or a one-off check-in. The rhythm settles back into place, and that's when the return stops feeling accidental. This is how one of Britain's most visible internet personalities vanished without answers and reappeared before those answers arrived. Before everything stopped, his position was unusually secure. By early 2024, young filly wasn't operating in the instability most creators live with. His work moved fluidly between YouTube, television, music, and live performance, with the same audience following him as he crossed from internet culture into mainstream media. Appearances alongside creators like Beta Squad and Chunkz weren't treated as special collaborations anymore. They had become familiar, expected parts of the landscape. Foot Asylum featured him so regularly that his presence felt built into their most popular formats. Television followed the same pattern. The BBC didn't experiment with him once and move on. They brought him back, booking him repeatedly for shows that reached audiences far beyond YouTube. His music career unfolded alongside that visibility. Tracks charted, live performances filled venues, first across the UK, then Europe, then Australia. Tours followed a rhythm that no longer felt speculative, just reliably full. What defined this period wasn't hype or momentum spikes, it was stability. Content performed the way it was expected to. Engagement followed familiar patterns. Brands didn't treat him as a short-term bet. They built campaigns around him, confident his reach wasn't tied to a single platform or trend. Nothing about the structure of his career suggested fragility, which is why what happened next didn't feel like a pause, it felt like a rupture. In September 2024, young filly was touring in Australia, following a schedule that had become routine by that point. One stop included a nightclub appearance in Perth, part of the same circuit he'd followed dozens of times before. Shortly after that event, Australian authorities arrested him. He was later extradited to Western Australia, where prosecutors filed multiple serious charges connected to an alleged incident said to have occurred after the appearance. The charges included 4 counts of sexual assault, with 1 count alleging sexual penetration without consent. Young filly denied the allegations and entered not guilty pleas. From that moment, the story left the public-facing world that had sustained his career and moved into courtrooms and filings. Information reaching the public narrowed to procedural updates and official reporting. There were no interviews, no personal videos, nothing offered beyond what the legal process required. The tour stopped. Future appearances disappeared from schedules. The shift from performer to defendant happened faster than anyone had time to process, and the response around him moved even faster. As news of the unrest spread, his presence began thinning out across platforms. Television schedules adjusted quietly, while content that had lived online for years started disappearing at the same time. Brand partnerships that once featured him prominently faded out, not through announcements but through absence. Those partnerships ended through private communication rather than public statements. Emails cited reputational risk and contractual clauses, closing deals that had once been treated as long-term investments. Other creators faced their own calculations. Keeping collaborative content online meant staying visibly connected to unresolved allegations, while removing it meant erasing years of successful work. Most chose distance. Mentions stopped appearing. Thumbnails were edited. Playlists shifted. Without explanation, no verdict had arrived, no conclusion had been delivered, but the system around him had already begun stepping back. After that, young Philly went quiet. November followed. December came and went until January arrived, with his accounts still inactive. For someone whose career depended on constant visibility, whose relevance relied on daily engagement, the absence was impossible to ignore. What made it more striking was how far that silence extended beyond him. People who had worked closely alongside him avoided addressing the situation altogether. Collaborators didn't comment. Platforms didn't explain their decisions. Broadcasters didn't revisit earlier choices. The silence wasn't coordinated, but it spread naturally through an industry that understood the risk of proximity. While young Philly remained offline, attention redirected itself. Older clips resurfaced and circulated again, detached from their original context. Moments that once passed without scrutiny were replayed and debated, not because new information had emerged, but because the situation changed how those moments were viewed. The conversation continued without resolution, and young Philly did not appear. That changes in March 2025. Without any signal that something is about to happen, his account becomes active again. The video marking the return doesn't explain the gap or acknowledge why it exists. It looks like something he could have posted at any point in the previous 5 years, which makes the timing feel out of step with everything surrounding it. Reactions arrive quickly, but they don't move in a single direction. Some viewers welcome the return in the name of presumption of innocence. Others express confusion about the timing. Many watch without commenting at all, unsure how to interpret what they're seeing. Young Philly doesn't respond. Hours later, another post appears, then another. The posting rhythm resumes, carefully staying within the boundaries of his bail conditions by avoiding any reference to the case itself. Legally, nothing is violated. Culturally, nothing feels resolved. As the activity continues, the absence around it becomes harder to ignore. The content is back, but the surrounding support structure isn't. Major collaborations don't resume, and there's no visible signal from creators, broadcasters, or brands that anything has shifted back in his favor. The network that once amplified his presence doesn't reassemble around him. The change shows up quickly in the numbers. Views are lower, reach is narrower, engagement reflects a very different position than the one he left behind. That's where the situation sits now. The legal case continues on its own timeline, largely out of public view. Court dates move, filings accumulate, resolution remains uncertain. The return has already happened, and the distance between those two realities hasn't closed. The disappearance provided no answers. The return didn't clarify what remained unresolved. It simply placed him back into public view, while the most consequential questions stayed open. And that's what makes this disturbing. Not speculation about what happened in Perth, not the legal process, but the fact that visibility can resume before accountability arrives, with the system around online influence offering no resistance as that happens. Young Philly is back, the case continues, and the story remains unresolved in full public view.